Hilarious. Get him. Get him.
All right. Coming in on a Friday, we'll let people trickle in here as James is already in here betting the over-under and 21 minutes off. But hey, it's the thought that counts, James. It's the thought that counts. Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. I have no idea what you're referencing, but I'm sure we'll find out here shortly. Guys, y'all already know the drill. PGJ, y'all have been a member of the show for a while. We have a new guest this week as Coach Smook joins us. Now, if some of you are familiar with the Bama Standard, a channel handling a lot of Alabama football news, great stuff, then you're familiar with Coach Smook. And if you're not familiar with the Bama Standard, you need to be. They have former Bama athletes on there from Trent Richardson, Bo Scarborough, Matt Caddell, you name it, they've got you covered. Plus, Coach Smook has a show on there, The Final Whistle, where he guests on. Coach, start with you, man. What we do is we go around the table. Everybody lets people know where they can find you on Twitter, your YouTube channel, anything you want plugged up. This is your opportunity to let the people know.
And Ty, appreciate you, man, for having me on the show, guys. Guys, man, hey, it's an honor because I really got into this watching Ty's work, man, and just meeting you guys. I'm definitely going to be jumping on you guys' stuff and supporting, man. I know if Ty vouching for you, I know you legit. So let's just get it popping, man. I'm excited to be here. You can just find me on any platform, basically, Coach Smook on any platform. I do majority gaming content. We just kicked off our NCAA content, doing some revamp. We do some program rebuilds, things of that nature, do some road to glory, what if moments of my career. So it's a good time for us in this social media content creation world. And I'm just glad to have this opportunity to connect with you guys, man.
Absolutely, bro. PG, where can the people find your stuff?
Yeah, y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show. You guys can find me on the podcast platforms, The PG Show as well. Or you guys can jump over to Twitter, PG Show _. We'd love to have you guys pull up, watch some of the videos, talking a lot of recruiting right now. That's what's hot. That's what we're covering.
Yeah, we're going to get into that this evening. Jay, man, talk to me. How you been?
What's good? It's your boy Jay with Unfair Sports. You can find me YouTube Unfair Sports as well as on Twitter Unfair Sports. Follow us, interact. We'll chop it up. Right now, the channel is heavy on shorts. We're doing a whole bunch of college football highlights. We're gonna have some fun as we wait for recruiting, and of course, the long form content is always around the recruiting itself. And a couple interviews. I just did one with former OU quarterback Paul Thompson, which was awesome. We talked about him living through the quarterback controversy, similar to Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams, and the one that we see happening with Dylan Gabriel and Jackson Arnold, and spring game and all kinds of stuff. So it was a good time. Go check that out. And Ty, as usual, man, it's a blast being on here with y'all this Friday.
Absolutely, man. Glad you could make it. Always a great time when you're here. And I swear to you, we're going to have some stuff planned. Guys, Jay and I text each other so frequently about content we're going to make. And it just so happens that, right when he's getting free time is right when my free time is usually ending. And so we're going to get this situated, especially before I go on my honeymoon. Jay, I was just thinking about it today. I'd like to get at least 3 videos done with you and held in the back pocket for whenever I'm away on my honeymoon. I'm not going to be able to record that she knows about. And I'm going to need videos to put out. So that's going to be something big.
Training in dangerous waters.
I live dangerously. That's I don't know if you've seen It's Always Sunny, but I embody Charlie whenever he kicks open the back door of the van and he says wild card. That's how I like to live my life. But PG, you said something in your intro, man, and talking about recruiting. And recruiting takes a lot of different forms. And look, we wouldn't be in the 2023 college football season if when we're talking about recruiting, we didn't start off with the portal. Now, guys, in 2020, we had the Tiger King, and that's dead and gone, right? I don't know where he's at. Carol Baskins took care of that. But now we have the Portal King. And there's a lot of different ways we could look at this. You got Coach Prime at Colorado taking in 48 commits. Right then and there, I don't know how you could argue he didn't win the transfer portal because he built a roster from the transfer portal. But gentlemen, as always, there's several different ways to argue a point. Auburn coming in at number 2, LSU at number 3, USC at number 4, Florida State 5, Ole Miss 6, OU 7, as Brent Venables continues to does great work on the recruiting trail. That's unbelievable. We got to talk about that. 8 Miami, 9 Oregon, 10 Arkansas, rounding out your top 10. Now, guys, I think the easy answer here is to talk about Coach Prime, and certainly we're going to have that conversation. But where else stands out to you outside of Colorado? And PG, I'm going to start with you. If you want to take Colorado and start hitting that and then tell me where else stands out, please do. But talk to me about what stood out from the transfer portal and who is the real portal king.
Yeah, so I think the cop-out answer is Deion Sanders in Colorado, because if you look at what he was able to bring from Jackson State, just in Travis Hunter and Sanders alone, like that could make anybody's portal class. Yeah. But I look outside of those guys, and one of the key pieces that I really love was that edge rusher from Arkansas. I'm totally blanking of his name.
Jordan Dominic. Yep.
Yeah, Jordan Dominic. I think he's just going to be an absolute monster. But when you look at what Colorado has loaded up on the edge position, just on the defensive line, like we've talked about how they need to be able to build in the trenches. That's what they're doing. Yeah, they've gotten some skill guys and defensive backs, wide receivers, but I really like what they've been able to do on the defensive line. Now, I, in fact, don't think the best portal classes are coming in the top 10. I think two of the best portal classes actually come within the top 20. One of them's outside of the top 20. The first one's Nebraska, because Nebraska completely just went and raided the Georgia Bulldogs. They got 4-star edge MJ Sherman, who was a top 75 player out of high school. They got 3-star offensive tackle Jacob Hood, 5-star tight end Eric Gilbert, and then they got QB Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech. I really like those additions. Matt Rule is definitely going to have these guys ready to play this season. Their biggest loss was losing Walter Rouse to Oklahoma. And if they would have added Walter Rouse to that class, Nebraska, I think, far ahead of everybody else in the transfer portal, just because of the guys that they got. I think they fixed a lot of needs on their team. But then, I mean, a close second place was Wisconsin. Wisconsin loaded up at the quarterback position.
Good one.
Nick Evers from Oklahoma, Tanner Mordecai from SMU. I believe they even had another quarterback from somewhere else, but they also got Bryson Green from Oklahoma State, that 3-star wide receiver that everybody in the country wanted. 4-star wide receiver CJ Williams from USC. I mean, I look at what Wisconsin did. They're trying to change the narrative that they're not just a defensive team. They can play a little bit of offense as well.
Before I pass this on to Jay, I will say this right here, PG. One of the things I love so much about your answer is there's a lot of different teams we could talk about. I think your answer exemplifies one of the things. I know I've said it, Jay. I think you've said it about the transfer portal. The transfer portal is best used as a Band-Aid. Right now, Coach Prime is using it to build a roster because of necessity, right? Timing and everything. He didn't have. But I think your point about Nebraska is very well received, and Wisconsin using it as a Band-Aid to add in for those guys that will move the needle. Coach Smook, same question. Who's the real portal king?
I'm an SEC guy, so that's where most of my focus is, and I plan to get outside of that. But just looking inside the SEC, man, I'm looking at Arkansas, man. Arkansas solidified some key positions: the defensive line, the offensive line, places where they were solid at last year and lost key guys. They went out into the portal and got some key guys. You got a 4-star. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a 4-star coming into Georgia. He just transferred to Arkansas, already enrolled. The guys look like that, and you look at what what's the coach name?
Pittman.
Sam Pittman is doing at Arkansas, man, and the culture that the team is just buying into what he's doing, and he's going into the transfer portal and getting quality guys. Everybody keeps talking about what Nick Saban is doing in the transfer portal. Yeah, we're going out, we're getting key 1 guy, key 2 guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only like 5 spots we need, and we hit all of them, honestly, in my opinion. But you talk about guys that really had to go and fill some voids and don't have the attraction that Alabama and Georgia have, and what Florida seems to have. Arkansas really did their thing, especially being in the East. I think they're going to do some damage this year. They were a solid team last year. I mean, in the West, they were a solid team last year. They just got outmatched in some games, but they returned that same momentum. I think Arkansas goes big, and we talk about just who else is winning the transfer portal. I think dealing with what they had to deal with their staff, Oregon is doing pretty decent too, man. With Coach, the defensive coordinator, former
Dan Lanning,
and Dan Lanning coming from this is second year, right?
Yes.
And going into the portal and just being able to use the brand. use the culture that they're rebuilding. Oregon looked solid multiple games last year, and you could just see the growth happening. So yeah, those are two teams that I was able to pay attention to. You know, caught my eye.
I love both of those.
That Georgia player he's talking about, Jaheim Singletary, I think I got it right. Yeah, that dude's gonna be a dog.
I'm telling you.
Well, here's the thing, right? It's interesting about the Singletary pickup because Singletary has some versatility. Coach, I think you probably being an SEC guy, you probably watched his film whenever he was coming into Georgia, and you see this is a guy who's labeled as a corner who has safety size. 24/7 Sports has him at 6'2", 170. I'd bet he's around 185, 190 now, 195, because he had the frame to be able to carry weight well. Yeah. Very talented. They lose Catalan to Texas. That was a big loss. They lose both their inside linebackers. That's big. But then we look at what they picked up. They picked up that 6'6" wide receiver from Bowling Green out there, right? They lose Hazelwood, right? He's no longer there.
Yep, Jay Hazelwood's gone.
So I really like the Arkansas one. I think that's a great point on what they've been able to do.
And this Anthony Booker guy from Maryland.
Yeah.
A sleeper, guys. I mean, honestly, SEC type defensive tackle. I think he could even be split and slide to the end somewhat. The guy can create havoc, and you put him in the style of defense that they play at Arkansas. Everybody know Arkansas is always physical. They always are physical. They are a team defense. That's their culture. You get a guy like Booker in the lineup with that. Oh my God, they could cause some problems. And I love competition across the league in general. You know, as an Alabama fan, a lot of us become homers. But when you see the transfer portal being handled like it is with a lot of these teams across the league, it makes you eager, just that more eager for college football.
100% agree. 100% agree. I don't know if Jay's back quite yet, but we'll pass it to him once he gets back. I'll think the one thing that worries me about Arkansas, kind of filling this in before Jay gets back, I'm so concerned about that pass defense. I think they were number 127 in the nation last year, and they lose Drew Sanders and Bumper Pool. And Smook, I don't know about you, but Drew Sanders, that's a little bit of a sore spot for me, especially being that he's from Denton, where I'm currently sitting. He went on to Arkansas to do big things. Jay, I'm going to pass the same question to you. Who's the real portal king, man?
Yeah, so sorry, had a camera issue, decided to turn itself off midstream, so that's always fun, so I had to switch it real quick. But, so let me jump on Colorado first.
Please.
You made some great points. One thing about them, too, if you pay attention to what Coach Prime is doing, he's going after a lot of people out of the South. He's going for purely SEC players. He got 5 guys from Florida State. 5, and 4 of them are from the state of Florida.
You mean the Buffaloes?
Yeah, the Buffaloes, baby.
Exactly.
The Colorado, the Buffaloes, exactly what they are. And what's even better about that is that, remember, Coach Prime is from Fort Myers, Florida. So he has Florida ties. He still has Florida connections, and he has an appreciation for those athletes. And so seeing them go after basically Florida State players, which tells me he's vying for the job one day, while at the same time picking up players from Alabama, from Auburn, from Tennessee, from Arkansas. He's pulling all of these SEC caliber players to put that big physical type play in the Pac-12, which is huge. Now, the other person I got to say is really battling for the Portal King. I got 2 guys who have shown consistency in doing this, and now we're going to actually see if this works. Because, Ty, you made mention of this. This is the one thing we've talked about a few times is, can you build a team through the portal only? And without really having a foundation in recruiting. And so far, our one real big litmus test has been Michigan State, and they did not show success. The second year of Mel Tucker with transfers, but not having a good class from that past year, did not look very well. They didn't perform last season. And so I guess this coming season will give us more of an idea of what it looks like. But people are going to hate it. But USC, man. Lincoln Riley and them are going after players, especially on defense. Them going after Bear Alexander like that told me that they're trying to be serious on the defensive side of the ball. Now,
Bear
will they be?
Apartment?
Yeah. Downtown LA, baby.
Not just that, Anthony Lucas as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the question I'm asking in all of this is that will these players, will they still be good enough for them to see success next season when Caleb Williams is gone? Will they be able to leverage these transfers after the Caleb Williams experiment goes away? Because Malachi Nelson's probably going to be really good, but is he going to be Caleb Williams? We don't know. I don't know if I can actually say that he'll be that good. I think he's going to be a really good player. I don't know how high his ceiling is. And so
it's always tough to compare a guy that's never taken a snap to a Heisman.
I don't know.
Exactly. And it's really
good.
And it's really easy to be successful year 1 and 2, especially in a quote unquote rebuild, when you have a quality quarterback, when you have a Heisman caliber quarterback walking in the door.
Alabama.
We got to see what they looks like moving forward. That's what I'm curious about, is what USC is going to look like after they lose this quarterback and they have to go into that. They're still leveraging the portal to grow, but they're doing a lot of that. Them as well as Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, man. Hey, the Lane train's been doing it. He's been stealing as many Texas transfers as he can get his hands on. Every time I look up, a TCU player is going to Ole Miss, and I have absolutely no clue why.
That's Oklahoma State.
Yes. But he's going for those 10-win seasons, and I'm curious to see if he can keep that going. It's his 3rd year there now. And so because of that, first year was okay. Second year, he got 10-2. Now the question is can he keep those 10-win seasons going at Ole Miss while he's there without actually getting himself fired for doing something stupid?
Not with Pete Golden.
Oh, now you just throw a wheel route out there and watch him squirm. But Jay, you raise a point. And it's been something I've been thinking about for a while. And I think a dedicated video, it's now coming out. You've convinced me.
You're welcome.
How big of a year is this for USC? You have a move to the Big Ten on the horizon, which is going to change the style of play. And while I think USC and Lincoln Riley's offensive brilliance will add something to the Big Ten, there also is something to the fact that they wouldn't have seen defenses like a Michigan, a Penn State, and depending on the year, in Ohio State, and that physicality of defense outside of your Oregons and your Utahs in the Pac-12, which is why we usually talk about your Oregons and your Utahs, because they bring that level of physicality to the pack.
Right.
How big of a year is this for Lincoln? Not only is the move to the Big Ten in the horizon, all those changes I just talked about, you don't have Caleb Williams anymore. And while
that's gonna be the struggle for them, man. You're right, because that is the thing that I'm curious about as well, is what are they going to look like going into the Big Ten with a bunch of transfers without the Heisman Trophy quarterback. Now, granted, I will give this to Lincoln. He's done a fantastic job of bringing in quarterbacks and making them Heisman Trophy winners. But
right.
Caleb is his first actual recruit that he was able to do that with, though.
Right.
Before, it was all transfers that he got from other schools, and we were able to see some sort of. I mean, Kyler is considered the greatest Texas player to ever play. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it makes sense. Baker just came in with a massive chip and is considered one of the greatest college football players to ever play the game. So I don't know if Caleb's going to leave with that same legacy, but I'm curious can he do that again with Malachi, or will he be forced to go in the portal and find another quarterback? And if he does that, I have to call him the Portal King, because there's nobody else that's been able to grab a quarterback like he has and make magic happen instantly.
And just to piggyback off of that, is the thing, he has that reputation. You think about Lincoln Riley, every transfer quarterback he's had has gone either deep in the Heisman race, they've made a hard push for the playoffs, they've competed for the conference. I mean, that's just what Lincoln Riley does with quarterbacks. And you think about in the day and age of this transfer portal with quarterbacks, you got a guy like Jalen Milroe sitting at Alabama, not knowing if he's going to be the starter. Hey, does he have the mind to stay another year and compete, or does he, answer that phone call for Lincoln Riley, knowing that Caleb Williams is going next year, and you got a freshman in Malachi Dupree? You get what I'm saying?
And there's already the history of an Alabama quarterback having been told, hey, what can Lincoln Riley do for you? And going to the NFL.
Add to that, no less than second place in the Heisman Trophy voting for any quarterback that he's brought in via transfer.
That is wild.
What do you do? What do you do about that? Like, what's your
You can't combat that as a recruiter. You can't combat that.
No, there's not.
Especially a guy that feels
as a recruit. As a recruit, maybe you may be concerned. Can you develop me from scratch? Now, Caleb was the one he was able to do. He still transferred, but he did make him from scratch. But transfers? Oh, no question. If I want you, you're gonna be a Heisman candidate.
Facts. Especially with a guy like with a chip on his shoulder, like Jalen Hurts. I mean, all of them. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, all of them. I mean, these guys just literally came in with a chip on their shoulder. People told Jalen Hurts he could not be a passing quarterback.
Man,
now look at him.
Man, I argued in favor of Jalen Hurts the entire time he was at Alabama. I was telling people he's an NFL caliber quarterback. There's just need to be some tweaks to the way the offense is ran. Because remember, Jalen Hurts is the last quarterback to play under Saban in that team that was very run heavy.
Yes.
He was the last one. And as soon as they flipped the switch and went to Tua, they were already transitioning into more of a spread offense. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he just got unfortunately lost in the fold. I just think that Dabo just, for some reason, couldn't figure it out with him when he was trying to change things. And Dabo was only there for a year. Yeah. So he bounced.
And he made that known early, Brian Dabo, with that type of quarterback. You know, that's just, it wasn't his cup of tea. Now Sarkisian's there. I think we see a tremendous growth in Jalen Hurts. We're talking about a deep battle with him and Tua, but Tua was different when he came in. We know Tua came in with NFL level caliber as far as breaking down defenses, his ability to get the ball out of his hands quick, decipher defenses early in possession. So it was one of those things where you got a guy like I said, Jalen Milroe will be if I'm Lincoln Riley. And you see Tyler Buckner go out there for first team snaps against the second week against Texas, because that's when you're going to know who's Bama starter is going to be, you know, generally going further into the season. Whoever starts against Texas and how they handle that game, that's who you're going to see continue to take snaps under center at Bama. If it's not Jalen Milroe, we could see some talk happening.
That'd be very interesting. No doubt about that. And look, Zach, we're going to talk about some Texas, because you're right. They absolutely did bring in some great players via the transfer portal. And when we get to the biggest additions, I actually have a few Texas guys I want to talk about there. But USC is very hard for me to argue, Jay. It's very hard for me to argue that Lincoln Riley isn't the portal king, because we look at what the transfer portal has given him. Multiple Heismans, and
this is even this predates the current transfer portal too.
But dare I say, does Caleb Williams count as a transfer? Because here's the nuanced conversation. He recruited him out of high school, but then he also recruited him via the transfer portal. Does he count as a transfer portal acquisition?
Nope. Technically, yes.
I'll take either. I'll take either, because I think there's an argument to be made either way. Literally, he is, but figuratively, PG, I can understand the logic where it's like, no, he was already tied to the hip of Lincoln, so it's not like a double dipping situation. The interesting thing is when we look at this, what moves did USC make? When I sit back and I say this moves the needle, y'all know that's a big thing on this show. Does it move the needle? Traquan Fegans, right? Like that addition. Bear Alexander, you bet your bottom dollar that moves the needle. Anthony Lucas, that moves the needle. Ladies and gentlemen, Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina goes over there. Now, remember, they lost their running back last year. And while I think it's Austin James is the running back they have that was in relief of Travis Dye. Austin James is very, very gifted.
It was Raleek Brown.
Well, no, he's third. Raleek Brown was third. There was a guy in front of
him. He played a lot after Travis went down.
Yeah, but the Austin Jones is the guy, RB2, then Raleek Brown. Now they get in Marshawn Lloyd. That's a big one. What about this one, boys? Mason Kolb, the linebacker from Oklahoma State. He saw a lot of football.
That was a huge pickup. A lot bigger than people think. Kolb played a lot of ball. Experience.
And
they're bringing experience on the defensive side too.
Austin Jones.
Thank you so much. I said Austin James. Thank you so much, LFG. Austin Jones. I was close. Give me that.
What about A.D. Mitchell coming from Georgia?
That's another one we could throw up there, right? That's huge.
I mean, wide receiver depth is big with that style of offense. And man, AD, he's made some big catches at Georgia. You know, the past 2 years, injury kept him off the field 2 years ago. This past year, it was more of a depth thing, you know, style of offense. And he, a spot player. I think he goes to Texas and looks for a more consistent role.
We also know what he has in Sark in terms of an offensive mind.
Exactly.
Zach Ramsey asked, didn't they get some wide receivers in? They lost a lot this last year. They got Dorian Singer from Arizona, but remember, they got a literal cheat code in their recruiting class at the wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm.
Zachariah Branch.
Zachariah Branch will play his freshman year. He is
a lot
good. You know, USC is one I have no arguments against. I think it's a great point. There's one team, guys, I'm surprised nobody brought this up. What about Brian Kelly and the Tigers? Boys, they have a top 10 class in transfer portal acquisitions. They bring in Logan Diggs, the running back from Notre Dame. A lot of Notre Dame people were high on his upside. Now, it goes further than this, though. Denver Harris. Now, he had a lot of drama at Texas A&M, but is removing yourself from that situation conducive to success? We'll find out. But if the answer is yes, the talent he has was never the question. That's a dude.
Only problem I have with the Denver Harris piece is that, of course, yes, leaving from College Station, being from Houston, going from College Stations to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is probably a really good thing in helping him as far as his environment and making better decisions. But a lot of people from Houston go to Baton Rouge. So I don't know how much of a difference it really is going to be for him. If he would have left the region, different story.
Right.
Hell, coming up north into like Oklahoma State or Oklahoma, something like that, going across that border, maybe I thought differently. But a lot of Houston people transition between New Orleans or whatnot. That's like second homes for people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the environment piece, but like you said, the talent is there. Denver, he could be a monster. And putting him out there in Brian Kelly's setup, he might do well. And that running back, like you mentioned, I mean, Logan Diggs, if I'm correct, was a Brian Kelly recruit. So that's the beauty of him being there for a year already. Now he can really go after his old Notre Dame players.
Yeah.
I got you one more name
going to happen
for LSU. And, Coach, this is going to hurt us. Aaron Anderson.
Yeah.
This was a guy who last February, Nick Saban was saying Kendrick Law. Before I go down this rabbit hole, because I'm going to go deep into this.
Oh, it's about to get deep.
F is for Fanatics says, sorry, couldn't make it, guys. As I told all of y'all, I wanted to get him on this evening. He's out camping, and he sent me pictures, and I'd have ditched me too.
Yeah.
The pictures. He said, I'd have ditched me too. Yeah.
I already ditched me with the thought. Yeah, I ditched myself.
About it. I saw that boat, and I was like, yeah, he made the right choice. That's a smart man, that is. Thank you for the $10. F is for Fanatics. Can't wait for you to get back. Hope you have a good time. Is it Denver Harris? I look, if he comes in LFG, of course he is. We saw the type of player he is, but the player that's going to hurt is Aaron Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Saban is very poignant with his words, right? Very. And I'm very much well of this mindset. Words matter, right? And that's why I words mean something. I say that because last year around February or March, Nick Saban said something about two of the freshmen that really stood out to me. Aaron Anderson and Kendrick Law. He said both of them have ability, but they have come in with an understanding of the work necessary it takes to succeed as freshmen. Freshmen. That's different. That's different. To hear him say talent isn't the question. You're at Alabama, damn it. Like I said in my video today with Jeremiah Beeman, when I asked, I don't know if you saw it, Smook, I was asking the question, could any of them start? And I said, look, if you watch the Jeremiah Beeman video, maybe you were bored when I was talking about what stood out most to me, and it was his gap discipline. Well, I can talk to you about the fact that he runs 4x100 relays. I can talk to you about the fact that he plays basketball. He's going to Alabama. All the other defensive linemen for Alabama are athletic freaks. So you are going to be an athletic freak joining a team of athletic freaks, as most college football teams have. They're loaded with athletes. What do you do to separate yourself, right? Because your athletic ability, that's going to help you get there. But what do you do outside of that to separate? For Jeremiah Beeman, it was the gap discipline. Yeah. I saw that and I said, he has an understanding of the small things with the athletic ability. That's the recipe for playing early. When Nick Saban said that, I knew Anderson, Kendrick Law, they were going to be fun players. Well, now Aaron Anderson heads back home to LSU. This LSU team, and gentlemen, how do we weigh LSU? Because their starting quarterback could be a guy they took out the transfer portal last year, right? So Brian Kelly, whenever we talk portal king, they have pieces off that team that are really contributing that are from the portal last year. So LSU is a team I think we need to keep an eye on, very seriously keep an eye on with the additions they've made out the transfer portal.
And I'm right there with you, man. LSU doesn't scare me, but I respect what they're doing, especially with the key additions in their own recruiting, not just the transfer portal, but recruiting. LSU is really out there giving us a run for our money in Louisiana this year in particular. And usually, Bama, we can go to Louisiana, we can get us a linebacker, we might sneak a running back out of there, but usually we can go to Louisiana and keep the wide receivers. Every wide receiver that recently came out of Louisiana, and so you look at with Aaron Anderson, and like you said, that's what bothered a lot of Alabama fans across the whole fan base. All this great talk about these freshman receivers and all the work that they're putting in, Kendrick Law, Aaron Anderson, Isaiah Bonds, Kobe Prentice, you giving them all this high praise. And why weren't they being thrown in the rotation earlier in the season when guys like Jermaine Burton and Trayshawn Holden couldn't create separation? And they were clearly, Ja'Cory Brooks is a consistent, he's probably the most consistent catcher. He has the biggest catch radius, but couldn't create separation, so, and even you say you want to go down that rabbit hole. Losing Christian Leary in the transfer portal was big for me, but Aaron Anderson was that dude, man. Him and Kendrick Law, you go into a 4-wide, spread set and have Kendrick Law and Aaron Anderson as your slots. You know how easy you can take the top off of defense. You know how easy you can manipulate safeties over top. You get what I'm saying? Because you got a 4-3 guy and another 4-4 guy right here, a solid 4-4 guy in Kendrick Law. But Aaron Anderson was speed, man. And I think he had like a 39-inch vertical or some crazy jump. You get what I'm saying?
Stupid.
Like, and I mean, not the biggest, but he's that Jalen Waddle type frame, and can get in and out of his cuts. And you let him go to LSU with Jaden Daniels, and then who the quarterback is? Wasn't it
Jaden Daniels, and then Garrett Nussmeier after that.
And so like we said the other day, Ty, I believe Nussmeier is a better fit for the style of offense that
Nussmeier scares me. We saw what he did to Georgia. He's good. And I watched him at Marcus.
And that's why I'm so glad and thankful that we have Kevin Steele back at Bama and Jeremy Pruitt lying in the wait to go ahead and fill in after Steele makes his transition and retires. But when I say Bill O'Brien is really, I know the Southern accent didn't work for my boy, but he hitting that recruiting. And that transfer portal right now, he's doing big things. And like I said, that offensive side, it might get scary over there. It might get scary over there with the type of depth he's building in that wide receiver room.
Ty, put that comment up there again from Jimmy, and I kind of wanted to jump on that. The one he put up, yeah, there you go. So, and we've talked about this ad nauseum on this show, that if you get the right coach in Louisiana and he's able to get the Louisiana players, they're going to win one title. Mm-hmm. It's the only school out there that has won 3 championships since 2000 with 3 different coaches. And honestly, only one of them is a good coach, which is proven because Nick Saban is the legendary great coach. But the other two, they accidentally won national championships because they were able to recruit all of the local Louisiana guys, and they brought in a transfer quarterback. So, not saying this is the year for Brian Kelly, but I bet you Brian Kelly's going to bring in a quality quarterback. He's going to bring in most of the Louisiana, because you throw a rock in Baton Rouge and you're going to hit a 5-star on accident with terrible aim. With terrible aim, you will hit a 5-star out in Louisiana by throwing a rock. He's going to be able to get those players. He's going to start winning a lot more of them. And once he gets 2 really just stout classes, he's going to win a championship. I'm just going to say he's going to win a national championship there. Then he might get fired in like 2 years afterwards, but he's going to win a championship. That's all I got to say. Is as long as he's staying in Louisiana and he's recruiting there, and he's right now winning a lot of those big battles.
And the interesting thing is about LSU, not only do they have the ability to recruit their own state, like you said, Jay, but what was the point you made earlier? LFG said it right here. A lot of exchange between Houston and LSU.
Yes.
They got an instant pipeline to Texas, and the second or third biggest market in Texas, Houston. So that is a great location. Something, I can't disagree. Guys, there is another, before I get there, Zach asks, but does Bama have the O-line and QB to give the receivers time? Quarterback remains to be seen, Zach. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell you with full confidence that the Bama quarterback is, going to be a world beater when we don't know, and they had to bring in a transfer portal, so that'd be facetious. I am excited about the offensive line, Zach, and I get your point is well taken, because not this past year, but the year before, that Bama offensive line was bad.
Horrible.
Bad. Like, Smook, it's funny. Everybody in college football kept talking about how bad the Texas offensive line was when Sark first got there. Alabama's offensive line graded worst.
Worse,
in almost every category. Last year they were better, but I really liked the way they improved, Zach. So I'm excited for the offensive line, but I completely grant you the quarterback question. That's a real question for Alabama. One I will concede. Talent is there. But how many times can we say the talent is in the room? I mean, God, that's a dime a dozen in college football. It has to be proven.
Right.
Next thing, guys, go ahead.
I was just going to piggyback off of what you said about the Bama QB room. How many times, look at every one of Nick Saban's national championships. All of them, except for one with Tua and Jalen, the switch up there. Look at all those national championships. Saban didn't have a Heisman quarterback. Those years, they might would have been in the running, but there was no freakish athletic quarterback. Bryce Young was there, won the Heisman, was in competition for 2 years, but he didn't win a national championship as a starter. You got to go back to AJ McCarron, Mac Jones, Jake Coker, Greg McElroy. You get what I'm saying? Like, guys that. So we have a Jake Coker and Ty Simpson. we have a Jalen Hurts in Jalen Milroe. Tyler Buckner. I wasn't a fan of going out and getting him, but after going back and looking at the film, probably like 3 or 4 days after we signed him, the kid has a ceiling. Not saying he's better than anybody in the quarterback room right now, but he's not worse. He's right there along with him. He's going to compete.
Yeah, the thing about go ahead.
Go ahead, bro.
So it's Ty Buckner reminds me a lot of Spencer Sanders. Because now, granted, one of them is a finished product, right? And the other one still is a growing product. But what I mean is, and Jay and I have talked about this all the time, which is why he did that. I will watch Spencer Sanders make a throw and your jaw hits the ground because you're like, that is a beautiful throw. Oh my God.
Spencer.
But then the next play he makes a throw and you're like, oh, okay, this is why Oklahoma State hasn't done anything this year. It's just like, you don't know who you're getting. And unfortunately, that South Carolina game, I think, showed us Buckner. He'll make a throw that your jaw will drop and you'll be like, wow, this guy couldn't. And then 2 plays later, like that 103-yard pick six, you're like, oh, got it. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah. It's the book. As you talk about Sanders, don't be surprised if, don't be surprised if scouts are high on him in the draft in the future. I don't know why, but it's more of there's just a decision making at the times that he's making them. It's like, why did you even look that direction? But the good thing for Buckner coming to Bama with Tommy Rees and actually having better quality receivers in line, I guess you could say, because it does kind of feel like Brian Kelly kind of melded in his last couple of years. Like he was just like, yeah, I'm about to get up out of this place. I got to figure out how to get out of this place. Having dedication on the recruiting trail, I think will make a difference in the way he performs. And just like you said, Ty, the biggest problem y'all had at Bama was really play call and forcing people to make the decisions they should make. But having Tommy Rees there and the creativity, game changer for y'all. I think it'd be a difference maker at the quarterback. Regardless.
RJ says Spencer Sanders. RJ, friend of the show, says Spencer Sanders. And I meant to text you this week, RJ. I know you hit me up on Twitter, and I was just sitting here earlier today, right before I was cooking dinner, being like, I need to text RJ back. And then the fiance walks through the door, and we start talking about her last day of school. All that happens. But he makes a great point. Spencer Sanders better be able to throw the ball. He's been in college since 2011. We came in the same class. RJ, coach, he played in the ACC. He played in the SEC. He's played every level, and now he helps train. Friend of the show has come on. Great insight.
That's so funny.
He's not wrong. he's a year or two away from being able to withdraw his retirement in college football. He's been in here so long. And that's one of the craziest situations is the Ole Miss quarterback room, which gets me. Buckner's a sleeping dragon, bro. Pooh,
I'm not sold on that. I say
I love his profile picture.
Me too, man.
So Pooh, every time he comes in here, he distracts me because my favorite movie is Kill Bill 1 and 2, and he's got Pei Wei sitting there.
Yeah.
Doing the it gets me every time. But
Kill Bill is such a great film.
If we're having the conversation of Portal King, we must then look at the other side of this, right? Who, as I type this,
the Portal Peasant, the Portal Jester.
This is happening live,
Portal
right?
Dunce.
Who's the Portal Dunce? And I have mine. PG, you're going to love this. And I think I'm going to say it, and I don't know if I'm even going to say anything else. I might just say my team and hand it over to PG and let him cook. Because I'm about to hand you oil, garlic, the whole 9 yards. You just got to turn on the heat.
Don't you dare throw a rock and run.
State has dropped the ball. Go. Cook. Go.
Mike Gundy's an absolute joke at Oklahoma State. He's an absolute joke of a coach. I mean, recruiting trail, transfer portal. I mean, and then they're all excited about what they got coming in, and I'm just like, man, Bedlam this year, the last Bedlam's going to be really bad for y'all. Really bad for y'all. They're so excited about this Alan Bowman from Michigan. Alan Bowman. I've never heard of this kid before. Like, how can you be excited about somebody that nobody's seen, nobody's excited? I mean,
he said, how can you hate from outside the club? You can't even get in.
Yeah, I mean, they lost running backs, they lost safeties, linebackers, defensive linemen, offensive linemen. Like, they're going to be looking at a whole new team this year. Oh, I feel bad for Oklahoma State fans. I don't normally do that, but I feel bad for them this year because they're going to have to go into Bedlam at home, and it's literally going to be the Rudolph all over again. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that meme where it was during the Christmas time and the girl was wearing, or it was during Christmas or November or something like that. The girl had a Rudolph costume, and they have those stupid people that paddle on the side of the thing, and she's sitting there going, it's going to be the same thing again this year. It's going to be the same thing. OSU fans are not going to want to go watch that game.
So I think you can take this a step further, right? All the good wide receivers, also
all of them.
What exactly do they have coming in? Here's what I'll give you. I do like Arlen Bruce. I think he's got ability, right? I hope he can put it together. Here's the problem, boys. It's not only what you lost, because the transfer portal giveth, but the transfer portal taketh. There's not one team out there that's exempt from the transfer portal's reach. Want to know my point? Go look at Georgia. They're coming off of back-to-back national championships, and we're given, and this isn't Georgia's fault. This isn't a shot at Georgia, what I'm about to say. But because the OU game had to be canceled by the SEC, by the way, that wasn't Georgia. That wasn't OU. That was the SEC. I say that every time so that way nobody says, oh, so-and-so didn't want... No. Both teams more than willing to play.
Yep.
Georgia has one of the easiest schedules in the country. And if we look at roster talent to schedule ratio, Georgia might have the easiest outing in the country, given that they have such a loaded roster and so little pushback in them on the schedule. If Georgia's losing cats to the transfer portal, anybody can. It's not about losing guys to the transfer portal. It's about, one, losing the guys you can't afford to have leave, and then two, how and why are you losing them? Are you losing them because you have depth, right? I mean, that's the case at Georgia, at Ohio State, at Alabama, and some of those losses hurt. Aaron Anderson, I'd love for him to be on the team. Are you losing them because there are three guys in front of them that are talented, or are you losing them because they're done? With you, with the system, with the environment, and unfortunately for Oklahoma State, I find it to be the latter, and that's where I worry.
You worded it perfectly there. It's kind of the system and what's been going on at Oklahoma State. I think it's gotten so stale there. I literally made a video about it. November, October. But I said, is it time to get rid of Mike Gundy? Because what has he done at Oklahoma State over the past couple of years that makes Oklahoma State fans, it's going to be any better after Oklahoma and Texas leave? Like, I think I heard it on the radio the other day. Oklahoma State should be the team that reigns supreme in the Big 12 when we leave.
Boy,
I'm not too sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's crazy because if you asked me right now, I don't know
who.
Like, no, but the thing is like, I don't think I have confidence saying that Oklahoma State's in a better situation than Cincinnati.
Nope.
Right? I definitely don't think they're in a better situation than UCF. UCF is a massive student body, a really solid alumni base granted, I don't know how their football alumni base is, but I do know when I was there for Moot Court Nationals, they have a great alumni base.
Look at how they've been since who was there? Sky Frost was there. How consistently they stay competitive, even with Heupel going in, and now was it Malzone that's there now?
Yes. Yes, and Zach says if we're looking at who's going to take both Kansas teams are on the table. Dave Aranda is with Baylor still now.
He ain't left yet.
I'll just say this. I have heard it from recruits and players. I have heard it from a recruit that Oklahoma fans really want. Mike Gundy's an asshole.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
No, hold on. It's not just an asshole. It's bad what Mike Gundy is.
So
players don't want to be there, and it's starting to get around.
So it was. Sorry to interrupt you, PG, but I
no, you're totally fine.
It was during the pandemic when the Chuba Hubbard thing happened.
Yep.
I know some of y'all probably recall this. A lot of people don't. So it was Gundy was wearing that ON shirt or whatever. Don't care about your political beliefs or whatnot. But it sparked a problem in the locker room when he received the shirt, decided to wear it. And this is where it became a problem. And when I read an article in The Athletic, it kind of detailed what really went down at that school. So Chuba Hubbard basically came out and said, look, there's going to be some changes at this school or a lot of us ain't going to be here. And you're just like, dang, like that's forceful. The nation's top running back saying there's going to be some changes or, people are out of there. Well, we found out in the article that Gundy separates himself from the players. He barely talks to recruits. He doesn't know most of their names, which is not like any top coach in the country at all. Ever. And it was like people hate him because he thinks he's better than everybody else in the room. Like he presents himself in that way. And if you're a leader of men, oh yeah, people gonna hate you'll be hated in that capacity because you're not doing your job as a coach. And when I was looking through that, I'm just like, oh God, this is not good. This isn't good at all.
Perfect example, 2021, Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. Where was Mike Gundy at the end of that game? Where was he? Because he wasn't down there with the team while Oklahoma was driving down the field about to win that game until you won't convince me that the refs weren't calling that game for Oklahoma State. But, he wasn't down there with the team at that time. He was standing at the complete opposite end of the field all by himself.
Mm-hmm.
What leader, what head coach does that?
And you got to think in this day and age of, you talking about political, being aware, political awareness, social awareness. You talking about trying to, young black man playing for a coach like that. You got to have confidence. That's why I think a lot of recruits, when Nick Saban comes into town, and I've seen it happen in Phoenix City, Nick Saban doesn't act like he's above anybody. Nick Saban walks in the school auditorium, school lunchrooms. Just walks in the Aflac, the Aflac building in Columbus, Georgia. He walks in there, man, eats lunch with the people, talks to people. And so when he came in and, Saban was in there, everybody likes his little video of him doing the Cupid Shuffle with Justin Robinson and his family, and that's how he is with all recruits. I remember when he came to Central High School and to check on Markhill Benton. Markhill Benton had a child on the way, getting ready to graduate his senior year. Saban checked on these guys. He knew this situation. Told Markhill to keep his head on straight. So you can't have, in this day and age, you can't have a coach that is looking down at people, or even how do you even assemble a staff? How do you convince a coach that's not chasing a paycheck, somebody that really cares about what they do as a coach at that level, How do you convince them to come and work with you?
Why do you think they lost their defensive coordinator?
Exactly.
Hey, look, hey, I that was the one complaint I had about everything they did there. They gave Gundy $1 million raise, and they did not want to pay that to the defensive coordinator who leaves and goes to Ohio State and then goes and play in the playoffs. That makes no sense to me. That's dumb.
I'm not even talking about Jim Knowles. I'm talking about Derek Mason.
Oh, Derek Mason quit. He's just like, I ain't about to do this bleep. But RJ has a great point on this. I've been in Oklahoma State's facilities before. I've walked around that entire area. It's gorgeous. Like it's fire. And they invest heavily. You can tell that T. Boone Pickens was like, I don't care what y'all do at this school, but this athletic facility better be creme de la creme. It should be top tier. It better be up there with SEC schools. And they did it. It's phenomenal.
If I would like to take this comment right here, and I'm interested in all of your opinions on my take on this, because you guys could very much well disagree with me here. But Deion Sanchez says, guys, Gundy was pretty good in college. Maybe he has the Michael Jordan or Larry Bird attitude that these kids just aren't focused. Here's my thing, Deion. I think there are some coaches that find success, and there's one thing we must give, because we're being hard on Oklahoma State. What I will give them is this. He's outperformed the talent he's had for several years. I'll give you that, where he's done better than the talent they've had. The problem comes when college football over the last 8 years has changed a lot. Boys and girls, you go back and watch offenses from 2015 to now.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed.
It changed a lot. Not only offenses, and granted, if offenses change, naturally defenses must change because you must account for the way you then solve for offenses. The transfer portal, NIL, all of these things has changed. And there's someone who's averse to change.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, Deion, it's a good point. You say that, and even with you, Ty, if that's the case, there's a reason why the MJs of the world and the Larry Birds of the world are typically really bad coaches, because they look at their players and say, hey, I can do this. Why can't you? And that's not developing or coaching
not at all.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because Jance had a point earlier that development hasn't been Oklahoma State's problem. They've sent guys to the NFL, which is why I made the point. Like, he has done good work, but the problem is at a certain point you have to change.
Yep.
Here's a great example.
You about to say it, ain't you?
Gundy is Nick Saban.
Right. I was just about to say it.
But Nick Saban is a defensive genius. He is going to be remembered even long after he retires about the defensive contributions he made for college football. He changed his defensive philosophy, his offensive philosophy. He modified it to be able to account for the modern style. If you aren't going to be able to shift, you're going to get left in the dust. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 points have been made here right now that I think really encapsulate how bad it is at Oklahoma State. We talk about how the transfer portal comes for everybody, how every team will be hit. Why are the players leaving? Because they don't want to be there. Mm-hmm. It's not that they have 5 guys in front of them. It's not that. It's not even that they're going to an Alabama or a Georgia, right? Where it's just like, oh, that we're coming to get your star player, like a Jordan Addison leaving Pittsburgh to USC, where it's like, okay, well, this is a move for development, right? It's because they don't want to be there. There's one, and PG made the second one. You had a defensive coordinator who came in for your other defensive coordinator that largely carried that team before, just up and leave. And boys, where's Spencer Sanders right now? Remind me.
At Ole Miss,
Miss.
That quarterback room.
How many quarterbacks does Ole Miss have? Jackson Dart, Walker Howard, and Spencer Sanders. If you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have 1. Spencer Sanders chose to play his last year of college football in a loaded quarterback room with a quarterback competition instead of playing for Gundy. That says it all.
Yeah.
Well, Spencer Sanders tried to come back.
True. That is true. That is true.
When Gundy didn't have a quarterback, Gundy told him no.
That's actually, I forgot about that, PG. Yeah. Thank you very much for correcting me there. You are 100% right there.
Here's my deal. And I think, and I've kind of pondered on this question since the season for Mike Gundy, but how much of this is he couldn't get over the Oklahoma hump and now he just doesn't care? And it's gotten to the point of he's making good money. He knows they're not going to let him go.
They can't.
I have a this is Dion, I don't disagree with you. Gundy is allowed to have whatever political view he wants. That's the beautiful thing about this country is the freedom of expression and religion and politics. The difference is you also have to have the nuance to understand how is the outward expression of these things going to help me. I'll put it like this. If you were a spokesperson for the NRA, you wouldn't wear shirts advocating for gun control. Even though you're perfectly well within your right to hold that position, it's counterintuitive to your bottom line to outwardly express that position. That's, I think, the contention here. He is well within his right to vote, to support whatever way he wants. That is the beautiful thing about this country. The beautiful thing
the problem there with any of that is this. When it bleeds into affecting your players, will they come out and make statements about to quit the team because of certain actions within the locker room from your head coach?
Yes.
That's when there's a problem. Ain't got nothing to do with his beliefs or thoughts. I pointed out the ON deal because that was the place marker of when everything happened.
Yes.
That's when a lot of people remember, because everybody remember the controversy of him wearing it and how the media, people started freaking out. I didn't. I don't really care on that part. It was more so right afterwards. The Chuba Hubbard press conference happened. Well, the tweet can't happen. And then a press conference happened, and he looked pissed in the press conference. Not Gundy, Chuba Hubbard. And I was just like,
crazy thing is, though, it's not the shirt that probably ticked the players off.
It's the reaction or the
response.
response.
The shirt in combination with things that were going on in the locker room.
In the locker room. It was the locker room problem.
Like,
that's what it was. Yeah.
This shirt has given us an avenue to dog on this coach.
Yes.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Camel's back.
Exactly.
Because that's what people need to understand. It's not the shirt that got Mike Gundy in trouble. It's the actions behind the scenes that let the shirt have actual meaning to
Nobody on this panel cares he wore the shirt. That's
Exactly.
his right. That's a beautiful thing. Express your politics. That's once again, I was going to go into government, politics, and law. So I believe very firmly that expressing your interest and being able to do so is an amazing part. And I think if everybody had conversations, we'd be in a great part.
Exactly.
I think that Jay, PG, and Smook are onto something here. It was the lack of wanting to have a conversation, or at least that's what it looked like from the outside looking in, to where it looked like, as PG alluded to, it wasn't the shirt, it was the handling of it.
And circle back to the thing about Nick Saban. If you see success, most people who want to chase success, who want to be successful, and don't have a selfish agenda, they don't mind studying success and modeling a plan after success. Nick Saban, everybody knows how stern he runs his program, right? Everybody knew how much of a hardtail Nick Saban was and how much of a businessman. If you look at how Nick Saban has changed personality-wise over the past 7 years, when it comes to interacting with recruits, with the type of interactions you see publicly on the sideline that Nick Saban has with his recruits, the type of his speech, the way his speech is changing, Nick Saban is still direct and straightforward, but he has made adjustments to make players believe in everything and follow it up with the actions. If he sets a standard and you say, I'm going to hold this standard I'm going to be accountable, Nick Saban leads not only with holding you to that standard, but he holds himself to the same standard, if not even a higher one, to deliver on what he promised your parents, promised you. I don't see that happening in Oklahoma State. And like you said, when you got a school like Oklahoma, and it's not even a battle when you talk about recruiting or anything. So yes, you're going to always have the short end of the stick. Like we said earlier, you can't even compete in state when it comes to recruiting. So yeah, it's looking real bad for Mike Gundy. And one of those things, like Billy Napier, I hate the fact that Billy Napier is in the situation he is. He got handed a dumpster fire, but
he got handed a Ferrari that was on cinder blocks and had no engine.
No engine, no gas, even it wasn't the battery one charged. I mean, it's like you hate it for guys, because I feel like Mike Gundy as on a different staff with a different university that kind of can support his ideas, give him a real opportunity to implement his philosophy. I feel like he could have a lot more success, But like you said, that stuff inside the locker room, that messes with these kids. These kids aren't built like I was coming up. Coach could cuss me out, talk about my mama and everything. And I just took it as just coach being coach. We playing football, But you can't do that to these kids nowadays. You will find yourself on Twitter. You'll find yourself on Instagram. I mean, on somebody live, and that's the end of your career. So if you neglect change, if you neglect the ability to adapt, not necessarily change, but to adapt, create a method that still fits your character and respects your foundational values and continue to advance, you're not going to find success, especially as a head coach in Division I football.
The thing,
go ahead, PG. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the thing that kills Mike Gundy is there's a time and place for everything.
Everything,
regardless of what it is, the shirt, what he says. There's a time and place for everything, and Gundy always seems to do it at the wrong time in the wrong place. He never can get it right.
Yeah, and on top of what Coach is saying, we're used to coaches cussing us out, denying us water, and all of that stuff. But as we have evolved as humans, a lot of the players have recognized those are like microaggressions. It's like, dog, you talking about sending me back to the projects? Are you attacking me as a person? Like, what are you trying to say? It's more of it's not a leader of men type mentality is my point. I don't care about it. I'm critical on that because when all these coaches we don't say that about them. They say that about themselves. We are leaders of men. We're going to help them become better men. If you're abusing them, that ain't making them a better man because all he's going to do is pass that down the line. And that's the last thing we need out here.
And I think yeah, Brian, look, I do have to agree. And that's why I've always said I'm a proponent of the 4-team playoff system because I think meritocracy is big and I think college football is a massive proponent of meritocracy. But the last point I'm going to make on this, I think all of you have hit it so good. If you're going to be a leader of men, you need to have that conversation afterwards conducive to how leaders of men handle it, right? And Schwartz, you're probably not wrong, but I also think that like it's a combination of both, no? Like within every so many years, we have, as the Supreme Court says, the evolving standards of decency, right? Like where as we continue to evolve, like in society, there's this continual evolution of the standards within society. And so that's certainly moving. So you're probably right. Like kids are soft, as Coach said, but it's also like, I think a little bit more awareness in terms of how you're handling the transfer portal, in terms of how you're handling recruiting. Like if you don't know the recruits' names and if we look in the Big 12, do you want to know all the teams that out-recruited Oklahoma State?
Almost all of them, right?
All of them not named Kansas.
And Kansas,
you got out-recruited by West Virginia? Iowa State?
And that's what I'm saying, Ty. You're in the middle of you're right there with Texas. You have thousands of talented kids coming out of just the next door neighbor house. Louisiana. I mean Tennessee. Like you're in the wheelhouse for all those areas to go and snag you a quality 3-star, snag you a quality 4-star. A decent 4-star. And compete every year and just develop. But because of your character. That's scary, man.
Yeah. Well, boys, I did want to hit this topic right here because we've already gone an hour on, and like I said, and Wiz, you asked what topics we've hit. If we've just been talking Oklahoma State, no, we talked LSU, Arkansas. I mean, we went through our whole transfer portal list. I think every person on the panel gave 2 teams that they thought could be in for Portal King, and then we talked about Portal Dunces. And the only reason I think A&M isn't up there is because as much talent as A&M lost, they recruited well enough to be able to afford some of those losses. Not all.
Right.
But like Anthony Lucas on the defensive line, they still have more defensive linemen than you can throw a rock at. Right. So they're going to be really, really interesting to watch going forward. And Dion, no, I think it's just that we see it objectively. You know what it is? It's like we understand that everybody has a right to what they believe, and that's the beautiful thing about it. It's about nuance. Nuance is a very important thing, but I want to get to this last topic. Key additions, right? Now, this can be transfer portal. This can be recruiting. When you think back to the class of 2023, and this is going to be a conversation we continue on Monday, just because we got so deep into the transfer portal conversation, I didn't want to shut that short. Key additions. I'm going to give you one off the top of my head, right? Because it was a team that I've been meaning to talk about, but they got an addition that I am so excited to watch, and that's Texas getting Anthony Hill. Number one inside linebacker in the nation at a position they had to have. They had to have it. That was the awesome thing about watching Sark and watching the evolution of how Texas is recruited. They've always recruited talent, but did the classes make sense? We've talked about this, Jay. We've talked about this, PG, not only with Texas, but for OU, about how Brent Venables' recruiting makes sense in a level that, I mean, Riley recruited well, but you're getting full meals off of these recruiting classes. You have your grains, your meat, your potatoes. You have a full, sustainable meal, whereas Riley was like those meals, like the TV dinners. It's great. I mean, it probably tastes fantastic, but like, are you going to be able to sustain off of this? Remains to be seen. Texas getting Anthony Hill was huge, and I'm going to tell you, boys, why. First and foremost, who's the defensive coordinator for Texas? PK. What truths do we need to understand about PK? Well, first and foremost, I would turn everybody to Texas Homer, who did a video over PK. Unbelievable video. If you don't follow Texas Homer, you're doing yourself a disservice. He makes documentary style content, super tapped in with the guys in the know. That PK video is one I watch. Just like that Nino offensive line video is a great one. I watch that PK video about once every 6 months just to really get myself refreshed with some of the thought processes of PK. What you need to know about PK is his use of the Jack and X linebacker position, something that Texas didn't necessarily have a very strong presence at. Now, I get it. Anthony Hill comes in as an inside linebacker, but if y'all watched the spring game, guys, he was rushing off the edge. He was playing inside. That guy has got so much versatility. I think they hit a home run, and I can't wait to watch him play college football. I am so excited for Anthony Hill. So we'll probably go around the table. We'll each give many, but my one that just off the top that really excites me, Anthony Hill. PG, what you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I can't give you just one, but I'll give you a couple here. Tahu Siliakana with Texas.
Oh, great one.
The edge position was a really big need for them.
Jack
really,
and
I
X,
could say the
yep.
edge position for the 23 class for Texas in general, because they also got Colton Vasek. Both of those guys will be dudes. They probably need a full year to develop, put on weight, get to that strength level that you would need at a Power 5 football level. But in their sophomore, junior, and senior years, they're going to be dogs for Texas. But of course, the team that I love so much, Oklahoma, Walter Rouse in the transfer portal, that left side of the offensive line for Oklahoma was just such a question mark going into this season, because losing Wanye Morris, you lost Chris Murray, you lost Anton Harrison. Like, there was a need there. They got one of the best offensive linemen in the transfer portal, and you didn't just get him. You flipped him from Nebraska after they had rolled out an NIL bag. And so that tells you Oklahoma is there to play the game when they absolutely need it the most, especially after you lost that on Hicks. But if I'm looking at the 2023 recruits for Oklahoma, Samuel Omasigo, I think he's going to be the future at the linebacker position for Oklahoma. And, to that point, Samuel Omasigo, guys, go show him some love on Twitter. His mom passed away, and that was very unexpected. He got a chance to graduate, but she did not get the chance to see him. But going to be a dude for Oklahoma. Love him. I think he's going to be a star.
Yeah, you, in fairness, and I must say this before we go any further, PG has been on that mindset for months. Months. About Omasigo. So when it happens, I'm going to tell y'all where you heard it first. These two gentlemen to the right, PG and J, they have been saying it forever. Coach, who stands out to you, man?
I'm coming home with it. For Alabama, Trez Marshall.
Love it.
Man, I mean, that's on the defensive side. And then on the offensive side, CJ Dupree and Malik Benson. And like we've been talking about on the show, I get on the Bama podcast. I don't talk about the obvious. It's clear to go to the obvious, but obvious. Alabama has been hurting at middle linebacker for the past 3 years, guys. Last year we saw a very bright spot with Deontay Lawson, but playing next to Tua, it's gonna be hard to look good. It's gonna be hard to look good playing next to that guy, having to do your job and then cover for the guy right next to you every time. It's not gonna look good for you. So as smart as the guy was, he did not help us, but Trez Marshall going to be a breath of fresh air for Alabama on the defensive side. And CJ Dupree is going to be a breath of fresh air for Tommy Rees and whatever quarterback we have back there. Also in the SEC, we talking about the transfer like we was talking about earlier that went to Arkansas. I forget.
Jaheim Singletary?
Yes, Singletary is going to be – guys, this guy's going to be big, man. He's a lockdown guy. And everybody knows when you can get out there and you can shut down one side of the defense as a corner, it makes scheming for your defense a lot better. And we know Arkansas always schemes. They scheme very solid. The only thing that Arkansas has ever had very much trouble with in the past and what's got them into trouble and on the losing streaks is injuries. So if these guys can stay healthy and the key additions they had in the transfer portal could come in and make immediate impact, we're going to see, like I said, those guys are scary. Trez Marshall, though, that's big for me. I'm ready to see. Watching that Alabama spring game, that guy flies. And
oh, God, I don't know what Jay's got planned, but he just looks too happy.
Look, Jennings, too, man, coming from JUCO to Bama. I'm ready. I'm ready to see those guys. That's just my homer and me being just stating the obvious. Marshall is just that he just looked like that dude in that spring game, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, so, he looked good.
I said something good about my rival. Now you guys say something good about your rival.
Who, me? Yeah, I got you.
That's against the law. That's against the law. Don't even say their name.
I was going to say the Opelika University doing decent. You know, Opelika University doing great, y'all. They and it's the new energy that Hugh Freeze, and like I said, unbiased. All hate for Auburn aside, sickening as it's making my stomach to say it. Hugh Freeze is bringing a new energy to Auburn, and everybody knows when you get an offensive-minded coach in Auburn that can, pull together some freakish athletic talent like Auburn is doing. They figure out the quarterback situation, which I think my guy from last year, the Hoover quarterback, former Hoover quarterback, I can't remember the guy's name.
Robbie Ashford.
I feel like he can get it under Hugh Freeze. The type of offense that Hugh Freeze likes to run.
I actually like Rashford more than I like. For some reason I think I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. It's Robbie Ashford, right?
Yeah,
it's Robbie Ashford. I know I'm right. Yeah. They get in Peyton Thorne from the transfer portal from Michigan State. That's great in theory. I think Ashford fits what Hugh Freeze wants to do better and easier, but that remains to be seen. I'm going to give you one I really like. Auburn got Shane Hooks coming from JSU to Auburn. That's going to be a good one. PG, I hate that you made. No, James, bad. We need a timeout.
Go to sleep.
Give James the timeout button. You got to at this point. He's asking for it, Ty. Give it to him.
Smook, we have one of the other frequents is Chris with a K of the Horns Down podcast, and he straight up bought an Auburn banner to troll me that he will display while we stream just to troll me. And if he was here tonight,
those are fighting actions.
No, it's
it go down in Alabama. It go down with Brown Iron Ball. It gets
Jay, I gotta get to you, man, because you look too happy, and I don't know whether that makes me happy or that makes me worried. So go ahead.
It's a combination of both, but no.
Oh boy.
So I'm gonna start with, of course, my squad and some key pickups that I think are huge, and it was mentioned in the comments perfectly. Deshaun McCullough. Yeah. Adding Deshaun McCullough out there might be the biggest game changer that the Sooners have done on the defensive side. Now, I've listened to some of the breakdowns from some former players or whatnot, especially the Oklahoma breakdown. They mentioned his size, but no, he's going to be absurdly good. And then getting his little brother, Day McCullough, who comes in at 6'2", 200 pounds in June, like he's basically NFL size as a freshman. It's going to be terrifying at what they're going to be able to do long term. And that to me was the biggest pickup out of all the players that the Sooners grabbed, even on top of what PG said with adding Walter Rouse, because you need, of course, stout offensive linemen. We always get those. That's not something I'm ever concerned about. Beadenbow does his job.
Yes.
But the emphasis on defense and bringing in a transfer that was one of the top players in the Big Ten as a freshman, changes the game for me. So that to me is the biggest one as far as the Sooners go, and I'm ready to see him go out there in that cheetah role or play edge or whatever the hell they throw him at, and him do some stuff along with Bothroyd and Trace Ford that we brought in. Now, talking about another team, right? I ain't talking about my competition. Sorry, I'm not talking about my rival. They ain't getting no love. My bad, Zach. Love you, dog. But I'm going to say this, though. One school, though, that we really got to continue to pay attention to, Florida State.
Yes.
Keon Coleman, Braden Fisk, which Fisk I wanted at Oklahoma bad because you got to remember this about what Florida State does and what Norvell has been doing there. He's been finding these diamond in the rough defensive ends at smaller schools, bringing them in and making them first-round draft picks. I mean, they had Verse coming back, and he was supposed to be a top 10 pick, and he decided to come back. Feels idiotic to me, but I digress. Braden Fisk, I think he's going to do nothing but do a phenomenal job anchoring that defensive line with Verse. Then they added in, who was the other defensive lineman that they just snatched up? Gilbert Edmond from South Carolina. He might be something special coming in there. But then really Keon Coleman giving Travis another wide receiver to chunk it to. Good God. Watching them in that bowl game when I was out there watching him in Oklahoma play, I was just like, this is absurd. This is not fair. Especially with Wilson, the 6'7" wide receiver out there just catching just perfect teardrops from Jordan Travis. Just stupid. Florida State's somebody to watch. Even with the players that they're losing, they do a great job of filling in those gaps. Like you said, Ty, they use the portal as a Band-Aid, but they still recruit like freaking crazy. Florida State's one that's out there. It's going to be a problem.
That Coleman kid is nasty. And I mean, Travis Hunter, we know he don't mind letting it go. Now you got two aggressive guys, big guys, 6'4", 200 pounds, man. 4'8", I think they said his 40 is. My God, man. And loves the weight room. You talking about maybe a Metcalf type receiver for Travis.
It's not fair.
Well, I'm gonna take this a step further, right? And then we'll do one more round of our additions that we like, and I think we'll start winding it down to get out of here. And guys, you're not limited to one. If you want to throw me out 5 and go into it, go for it. But we'll do one more round around the table. And before I start mine, I'm just going to answer this, so this doesn't count. In case anybody's keeping score, James, looking at you. And Sport, you're right. Colorado, it's as much as we talked about like Lincoln Riley and what he did. If anybody says Coach Prime and Colorado won the transfer portal, they're right. I mean, they got to be right? I mean, he built a roster off the transfer portal. So yes, no doubt about it. Always up there. But there is a lot of fun conversation, Sport, about other coaches and what they did. Here's what I'll say. Florida State, piggybacking off of that. Jay, love your point about the wide receivers they get. Keon Coleman, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, let's also peer into what they did in the class of 2023, where they get a 5-star wide receiver, Hakeem Williams, to come in there. On top of that, there were rumblings of a player. It became like Bigfoot, that people didn't know whether it was real or not. Destin Hill is enrolling. It's happening. I don't know if y'all remember Destin Hill, but it was the famous recruit that Florida State got, never enrolled, from the class of 2021, I believe, 2020? Somewhere around there. Well, he's coming now. So now you got a lot on this Florida State offense at the wide receiver position that they're going to have at their disposal. I really like that. I think you're very right to point out Florida State, Jay, to point out what a threat they are. They're going to be a fun team. Texas State has a fun class coming in. You know what, RJ? That's a team, UTA, UTSA, they really do good work in the transfer portal. I had a friend who played for UTSA, actually one of my roommates, the one I always reference, and they have a lot of players that transfer to UTSA from a lot of big schools, and that's who gave me the insight into some of the things that happen in the transfer portal. But I'm going to take it home for my next big addition, because I have to, right? Caleb Downs comes in. Bama loses both starting safeties. And in a year where after that, you really don't have any sort of idea what you're going to do. Malachi Moore can play safety, but he's also had a lot of experience at like star, at nickel, at several different positions. Caleb Downs coming in huge for what Alabama wants to do, really gives them something with confidence in that back end. I think that addition is one that we're going to look back on very big. If I'm going Oklahoma, talking about an addition for y'all, I really like Petaway because I think he can add in something to y'all's wide receiver room that y'all currently might not have. And that's this. Do y'all have a wide receiver that you feel comfortable that if they catch it on a bubble, that they can take it to the house, that if they catch it on a drag, they can take it to the house. You've got a lot of talented wide receivers, but I think Petaway is the one that will really be. Who are you thinking, Jay?
Brennan Thompson, the one we just stole from Texas.
Brennan Thompson, I grant you that. I grant you Brennan Thompson. You're right. Fair.
But outside of what you said, you're 100% right. But that's the one. When you said it, I was like, no, we've got another 10-3 guy that
it's one thing being 10-3. It's one thing being 10-3 because y'all also have Freeman that's very fast. It's one thing being fast. It's another thing being explosive and purposeful with the ball in your hand.
Brennan and Petaway are your two guys for that, yeah.
And they're so that's going to be my two. Those are going to be the two. And then I'm going to give you one more just because I have to. I have to. And then I'm done. Steve Sarkisian, boys and girls, they lose Bijan Robinson, and what do they do? 5-star running back Cedric Baxter Jr.
Yes, sir.
And it's not just that they lose Bijan. You lose Roschon. That's the one we don't talk about. And look, understandably so. You lose a Bijan Robinson. I get when that's the lion's share of attention. We talk about it, Jay, all the time, what he meant to that team. Getting in a running back that you have faith in, and that's a talented running back room. But it's just adding in more. Love that. PG, I pass it to you.
Does mine have to be 2023?
No.
Okay. Because Oklahoma fans, they be getting a little wild sometimes on Twitter because we are slow at recruiting. 2025, Oklahoma has 2 commitments, one from a quarterback in Kevin Sperry, the other one in Grayson Harris and a wide receiver. I think those are extremely important and more important than a lot of people think. And here's the reason why. I'm hearing a lot of buzz around Kevin Sperry on the recruiting trail for 2025 for Oklahoma. Oklahoma has 3 players currently ranked in the top 150 out of the state of Oklahoma. One of them is probably going to end up as a 5-star when the 2025 cycle starts.
And you know how much I think of Kevin Sperry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just want everybody to understand Kevin Sperry committing this early when Venable's policy basically prohibits these players from taking visits while they're committed to the University of Oklahoma. I can't tell you how big that is for the University of Oklahoma. Oklahoma fans can calm down knowing that the future of this program is going to be okay, especially with all of the talent coming out of Oklahoma. That's my take. That's where I'm going to leave it because there's a lot of takes in 2023 and 2024. I could go on for days on this topic.
Like I said, we're going to save a lot of this for Monday because we could go a full hour just on this alone, really diving into these classes. And we might have to start on Monday going through the divisions and going through each class and breaking it down. That actually sounds like fun. Coach, I pass it to you. Who you got for me?
I'm going to go out west, man. USC, like you was talking about earlier. Man, you talking about something that that conference struggles with is physicality in the run game. And they went out and they got 2 quality tackles, interior offensive linemen. One guy, I think one of them 6'6", 320, a solid tackle, to solidify the edge. They had strong guards last year. But I think that offense at USC is going to surprise a lot of people with the amount of run game that they're going to implement. And then they went and got a quality running back. The guy's named Marshawn Lloyd, coming from South Carolina. Played SEC football, saw quality snaps. Wasn't he like the RB1 for like a 7 or 8 game stretch?
Yeah, because South Carolina lost the guy they were so excited for at tight end and at running back. Big hit for Beamer. And
you gotta look at this guy. He's coming in hungry. He's coming in with the mentality that he's played in probably one of the toughest leagues in college football. When you're talking about from a physicality standpoint, he's a physical runner going into the big that west out there west in the pack. You're going to see this guy probably get more recognition than he would if he had stayed in the SEC. You get what I'm saying? And it's going to be because of those key additions in front of him also. So, and like I said, I think everybody that USC went out and got, they're looking to implement them like most schools do. They're looking to add and have guys play right away. We saw it with Alabama. CJ Dupree came right on in, took over as the starter in that tight end group. But you see how he's going to be implemented by how he's pushing Amari Knee-Black, how he's allowing Robbie Oots time to recover. It's just creating value when you go out and do what Lincoln is doing at USC. And then I like to bring it back to the SEC guys. People like, oh man, I hate to admit this, but Hugh Freeze is sneaky. He's sneaky. He has jumped into the our recruiting, and he's in Perry Thomas's ear, Uno Thomas. And everybody that's paying attention to recruiting right now in Alabama, in the state of Alabama, we know how much of addition Julius Sane is, being that he's committed. If we can lock in Uno Thomas, and he's committed right now, he's with us, but he's been talking to Auburn a lot. If Uno Thomas could stay with Bama and we solidify that class, you're talking about offensive firepower over the next 3 or 4 years. You got Dylan Lonergan, who's going to give Sane a year to grow. He's going to get a Bryce year. And guys, it's going to get crazy, man. It's going to get crazy.
And that's not even considering Jalen Mblakwe. What do you want to do with him?
And does he play running back? Does he play wide receiver?
Does he play DB? I mean,
does he play safety, corner?
Yeah.
I mean, the kid is nasty and physical on both sides.
Really physical.
Physical on both sides. So I'm just like I said, transfers and recruiting right now, it's hard to compete with some of these top end schools, man, because they really Kirby Smart is doing his due diligence too over at Georgia. We don't talk a lot about Georgia because they're the 2-time national champions. They whine all the time as if they haven't won 2 back-to-back national championships. You would think Georgia is not winning. Georgia fans aren't winning national championships because they're whining in everybody's platform. But Kirby Smart is doing just exactly what he should have been doing. He came in with the most talented roster you could ask for, coming in, taking over a Georgia team. They were very talented. They were a 10-win team when he got them. And all he's done is grown every year. Every year when they had the talent of a 10-win team, and he's continued to grow. So when I talk about just the quality of that's being spread around as far as talent, college football is going to be filled with excitement because of how the access to the transfer portal.
Yeah. Visor comes in, our Georgia fan, big friend of the channel. He says, Georgia will finish with the highest graded class of all time. I told y'all it was coming. Look, Visor, I think y'all are going to finish with a very, very strong class. Dylan Raiola, there is no question what a big win that is. Keep him. Going to be looking real good. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And I don't think that y'all were as talent devoid as a lot of Georgia fans will say, because you look at what they were doing. I mean, it's not like they were terrible. Now, I grant you this. There was a turnaround that needed to occur. I definitely grant you that. But that's something we have to watch. Jay, I'm going to go with you right quick.
Not the deep, bro.
Man, PG, you went 2025, didn't you?
Listen, it's such a good take, and Oklahoma fans just don't understand it. Like, I'm tired of hearing all this Oklahoma talk. Like, Oklahoma can't recruit.
No, and I get you. And I guess for me, man, recruiting takes time, especially when you're battling the big boys for players. Like Georgia right now is coming up back-to-back national championships. So, of course, players are going to, commit, day one as fast as possible. They're trying to reserve their spot immediately. But with other players other schools trying to, rebuild or grow back to prominence. And I mean, Bama takes their time with a lot of the big players that they go after. They try to get them in and get them to stick. BV has his, philosophy around recruiting that he's always had. And so it gets tough to be calm and understand that relaxing is your best option when it comes to the world of recruiting. But if anything, just as Hall of Fame just put in there, I'm really tired of Coach Bates getting these strays, catching strays. I mean, he did a phenomenal job at Clemson. He learned a lot from BV and the staff there when he got there. And he's brought in some elite players, and it's going to take time. It took a couple of years for them to really get them at Clemson. They were really coaching up 3- and 3-star players for the most part. And you're going to see a lot of that at Oklahoma. You're going to see some diamond in the rough players come in there. They're going to coach him up. And you can be like, oh, I didn't realize he was a 3-star. He plays more like a 5-star, and he's going to get drafted probably in the first round. That's what you're going to see a lot more of, that we have to understand is going to happen. Recruiting is so fickle. And I don't want to say that it's more fickle now than it used to be. I don't want to feel like I'm being that naive of a person to be able to easily say, oh yeah, the NIL and transfer portals is causing all of this. No, I think it's always been this fickle. We just didn't pay attention to it as much. Like, I know about recruits changing their mind and making different decisions and stuff. It happens. You just don't know it. Now it's literally being broadcast. Right. You know what I'm saying? The revolution is being televised. So when it was happening silently, we knew bags were being dropped off at homes. We just couldn't have no proof. Now you know a bag is being dropped off and kids are changing their mind and where they go. So I think I'll just leave it at the bait slander has got to calm down, because when he starts landing them, I don't want to hear your praise. I want you to just stick to your guns of you don't like him, you don't think he can do his job, even when he starts bringing in some 4 and 5 star players that people think we have to have. Because yes, it's great to have them. You can find some dogs in the 3-star range. I mean, that's kind of where, the best defensive player in the NFL, Aaron Donald, was. He was a 3-star going to Pitt.
Jay, here's the problem. We're still going to land David Stone. We're still going to land guys like Nigel Smith, Joseph Jonah-Ajonye. Shoot, we could even land a Jaden Jackson, which, by the way, is an incredible interior defensive line class. And people are still going to complain because we lost out on Dominic McKinley, Edric Houston, and Williams Winery at that point.
So I think it's in the middle, right? Like, I certainly don't think Bates needs any slander. I've defended Todd Bates. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. Where I do agree and disagree, Jay, is it's not the end of the world. I wouldn't rely on saying I'm going to bow out of 5-star battles and I'm just going to focus on developing 3 stars, because the blue chip ratio is a thing for a reason, right? And I think that trying to chase the exception as opposed to the rule is a way to end up in a bad position.
I don't think that they're bowing out of them. It's just more so they're not going to win all of them yet.
Fair,
it's going to take time to win those. It's going to take time to prove, because even though you can move from one school to the next, you still have to prove yourself at your new school to allow these players. It's not something that automatically happens. I mean,
no doubt.
Nick Saban a year to really start pulling people to Alabama, even with his success at LSU. He finally started getting Louisiana kids and convincing them to come over to Alabama, and you started to see the continued growth. But initially, people weren't just jumping on board. They're just like, well, I don't know who you are. We don't know what you're going to do. It just takes about a year or two to reestablish because the other thing that happens too, and I think a lot of people don't take this in consideration, is when a coaching staff leaves and a coach gets promoted, gets a little bit more of a prominent role, like he's an assistant head coach, typically they end up leaving for head coaching jobs or defensive coordinator jobs where they're at the podium the next year. And so sometimes with recruits, they recognize it. They know that their parents recognize that, hey, this coach went here within 2 years. He bounced out and took another big job. So do you want to go there and potentially be stuck, or do you want to go there and then get in the transfer portal and follow them where you only have one transfer available to you? So there's a lot of factors that come into play. Like, I understand some hesitance with Levy because he's considered one of the top assistants in the country that should be getting a head coaching job really soon. He's passed on a lot of the smaller ones. If a big one comes up, he's probably gone. It makes sense to go and take the head coaching job at a P5 job. So you're going to see some hesitancy in that, especially when new staffs come in. But once they show that they're going to be there for at least 3 to 4 years, the kids are more willing to, you know what, I'll go ahead and come. I'll show up. Yep. I'll stick it out. Well, gotta wait for that sometimes.
If I may, let me say this real quick, because I said this in the video. Losing Sims isn't a big deal until it is. And what I mean when I say that is, if OU finishes the class having landed David Stone and Nigel Smith and an Ajonye, losing Smith is nothing. It's negligible. Yep. You made up the loss. But now losing Smith makes every defensive line battle you're currently in that much more important, right? Because, and I don't want to go to the past, but like, PG, you can sigh, but losing Jordan Renaud wasn't a big deal because you were going to get Hicks. That's what you told me.
Well, no, losing Renaud was a big deal because
But at the time, we had that on the stream where I said it's a loss, and it was, it's not a loss because we're getting Hicks.
Well, yeah, we got
nothing is
flip an Edric Hill, and we weren't able to flip a Marcus Deal. So by that time,
that's my point.
We didn't have anybody.
That's my point. We were in the same situation a year ago, and I'm saying the same logic carries over. It's not a big loss, but
it'd be really weird though because this argument, I think OU fans are so stuck on Stone is an Oklahoma City kid. They don't look at why Stone isn't in the state of Oklahoma. So if OU loses out on David Stone, I don't think it's because David Stone doesn't want to come to Oklahoma. There is another underlying reason why David Stone probably will not be a Sooner. And OU fans need to not put that on Todd Bates, because that is not Todd Bates' fault.
So one thing I would say to the OU fans who are doubting what is happening in that program, it's obvious. The culture is changing.
Yeah.
You look at and this leads into another point. Look at what happened with Kirby. Similar situation happened with Billum. Come in to Oklahoma. Decent roster. You got some guys leave, some key guys leave, but you come in with some decent talent. You compete. You set the tone for what you got in the future. You come in, get some strong recruiting in your first year. Do some strong recruiting. You hit the transfer portal, get some key guys. You get what I'm saying? You go out there, you do the basic things that you do to sustain and set yourself up for success. Georgia had the same thing happen with them. You look at what Georgia did the year before Kirby, they were 10-3. They turn around, they go 8-4 or something like that, right? The first year. And you talk about the amount of talent. The Georgia fans said they didn't have talent. There were 13 players on that first year roster for Kirby. 13 players are in the NFL currently right now. So you had the talent on your roster. You get what I'm saying?
It was the culture.
Yeah, it was the culture. And that's what had to change. So you don't have that at Oklahoma. You don't have the talent edge right now. You got a guy that's coming in and he's competing and creating that talent edge from some of the other schools in the conference. But now coming into the SEC, he gets right there in the mix for the guys that don't get the Georgia look, that don't get the Alabama look, the 4 stars that, don't want to go and compete at Alabama and Georgia or Florida. You get what I'm saying? Now, okay, Oklahoma, that might be an opportunity to get on the field early. Oklahoma's in a great position. Texas also, you look at the type of staff that they assembled. You got offensive mind in Steve Sarkisian. You got a defensive mind over at Oklahoma. Guys are going to be inclined to go there instead of just automatically siding with Saban and Kirby Smart. This is an opportunity for Oklahoma especially. I'm not too big on Texas, but Oklahoma especially to impact when they come over to the SEC, especially in recruiting.
Okay, so Sooner Cowboys, I know you've been around a while, but I feel like you're being a doomer over here, man. Like, again, I want people to understand Todd Bates can't control the David Stone situation. He has no control over the backstory of David Stone.
100% right.
So you can't blame Bates on missing on Stone if his mom does not want him in the state of Oklahoma. You can't blame Bates for that. Now, you can blame Bates if he misses Winery. You can blame him if Jonah, Smith. But the odds that he misses out on all of those guys, very unlikely.
Negligible.
I mean, Dominic McKinley, I think, might be the strongest 5-star defensive line target that we have right now. And that's saying a lot.
See, that's the one I'd be shocked if y'all ended up with.
But see, he's really going back and forth right now on, hey, is that 5th visit going to be Alabama? Is it going to be LSU? He knows he can take more than 5, but he really wants to keep it down to 5.
Well, I will say, yeah, that's going to be interesting if he limits it to just 5. But I've always said this. I've always found that the obsession with official visits was misplaced and that it's unofficial visits. And if you talk to players, that's what they'll tell you. Unofficial visits, that's where you need to watch. And that's why I always have been so surprised when everybody's like, oh, but he took an official. I'm like, yeah, he took 18 unofficials after it.
Peter Woods. That's literally what happened. That's literally what happened with Alabama and Peter Woods. Peter Woods spent a lot of time at Clemson. Justin Ross too. But to keep it under wraps because of the pressures, you have people, some of these recruits are lucky to have some real guidance, guys. You're talking about some true guidance, almost managerial agent type guidance to keep what type of journey you want to have as a recruit. Do you want the exposure? Do you want, because of NIL, it's easier now. So you look at Peter Woods, man, that man he's a businessman. And Alabama advisors weren't keeping it business-like with him. They thought, and it sucks that it doesn't work for a guy like Peter Woods.
It didn't help that our defensive coordinator didn't reach out until a day before he committed. Our recruiting suffered from not having a real answer about Bill O'Brien's his instance of what he was going to leave or not after the season, and
Pete Golden being the defensive coordinator, and you got a guy like Pete. Come on, man.
It
I'm
hurts
not
so
playing
bad,
for-
yet y'all landed all those 5 stars.
Yeah, Jordan
But
Reynard.
that still hurt.
Peter Woods
he's
is a homer.
dude.
He's from Alabama. That's
And
what
he's
hurts.
Dude, did you catch that Clemson spring game?
I'm not
He's
even.
already tossing kids out the club.
Imagine Peter Woods with Jaheim Otis. Imagine. Come on, dog. Like, we really missed out. Peter Woods and Jaheim Otis and Justin Boyd be coming back. Like,
Throwing them out the
would have
club.
been crazy, man.
Hey, you know what? If people want to continue to try to run Todd Bates out of Oklahoma, I know a team of 2 guys here on this chat that would love to have Todd Bates be
If he
recruited
wants to
for their
come
team.
back, if he wants to come back and roll with the Tide, come on.
Come on.
Now, I mean, I will say this: I wouldn't fire Roach. Right? If we could keep Roach and have Todd, I'd be on it. But I love Freddie Roach.
I love him. But I love Freddie Roach. But you're talking about production, development, what's been proven? Roach has had talent. Todd Bates has had to develop guys.
I don't disagree, but I also think Roach has. I don't disagree at all, and I'm certainly never going to speak down on the development of Todd Bates because that'd be asinine, right? It'd be counter to the point. It'd be counter to the truth. But I do, and you're right. Roach has had a lot of talent. Roach has developed some dudes, but that's not to take away anything from Todd Bates. It's just, I think you're in a situation where, and PG, we talked about this, right? It was one of the things whenever Renaud landed at Bama and Oklahoma fans were freaking out, and you and I came on, and I think, Jay, you were here, and I was like, you guys lost a battle to Freddie Roach and Nick Saban.
6.
Like, if you're going to lose a battle for a defensive lineman,
lose to.
if you lose to Larry Johnson, the godfather of defensive line recruiting at Ohio State, or you lose to Freddie Roach, those are battles where you're just like, they beat us. Cool. You're talking about the best of the best. It's just like if an offensive lineman goes to Oklahoma, no offensive line coach says, why would he do that? You look at who the offensive line coach is. Oh, it's Bill Bedenbaugh. Oh, how much money has he earned offensive? Oh, okay. That makes
beating bags. Yeah, beating bags
Yeah.
and put some money in some pockets.
That makes complete sense. Of course he would go there. Why wouldn't he? Right? Like, it makes sense.
And I'll just put this out there because people forget this a lot too. And I know Sooner Cowboys is saying OU is just a place that doesn't attract defensive linemen. I'll disagree with you because here's the thing.
Oh,
he
God,
recruited. He's only had one full. This is his second full recruiting cycle at Oklahoma. He was at Clemson trying to recruit dudes like Vic Burley and Peter Woods to Clemson. Y'all really expected him to come to Oklahoma and try to convince those kids to come to Oklahoma in one recruiting cycle? No, that's not how that works.
Exactly. Great point.
You got to give him.
That's what I was saying.
Years
That's what I'm saying. It takes time because
he's
people
gotta build a whole
would
new
probably
pipeline.
think he just got the assistant head coach and tag. He may go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. He may go ahead and leave within a year, 2 years if he does some special stuff. Some of these kids think of that. Think of where my coach going to be.
Yep.
Not just the school. So a lot of these kids go to the school with the coach that's going to develop them the most. And some kids, they love the school too. They're like, oh, I've always wanted to play for that school. But they also want to play for that school because a particular coach that's recruiting them is the coach that's recruiting them. So that's why you see players follow their coaches. Losing Renaud to Roach as well as Nick Saban made me think, yes, Nick Saban. Like,
and then
his team's all about defense.
And then all the guys that, we didn't bring from Clemson to Oklahoma on the recruiting trail. Well, guess what? Clemson still has that. What's his name? Weston Davis. Is that his name? They had a lot of dudes. Yeah, on that staff. They still got a good guy that can develop you out there and recruit really well. And it's an established place that you were recruited to in Clemson. Yeah, I don't think I'm taking the chance to come to Oklahoma in just 1 year of a recruiting cycle for Todd Bates. You're going to give Todd Bates the 2024 and 2025 recruiting cycle before you actually start to make any claims that Todd Bates can't recruit.
And let me throw this out there. I don't want my point to be misconstrued as to saying there is a reason to be worried for Oklahoma. There absolutely isn't. My point is this. Every time I'll use Alabama. Alabama loses Peter Woods. It made James Smith that much more important.
Yes.
Like it made him that. And I'm not saying it's David Stone. But I'm saying if we had a pie chart, we could spread around the importance for a Jonier, for Smith, for T.A. Cunningham, for an Edric Hughes. Every one of those guys becomes even higher priority. But I will say this. Like PG says, are we going to ignore what this staff has historically done recruiting? Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, Jay, PG, remind me, what was the Oklahoma, and I'm not saying this backhandedly, but it's to prove a very important point. I don't want any.
It's backhand.
What was Oklahoma's record, Jay?
6-7.
And where did y'all finish in recruiting?
4th.
How many 6 and 7 teams y'all ever seen finish with a number 4 recruiting class where you look top to bottom and you went, wow?
Texas. I mean,
no, that's fair.
Fair.
We'll modify it though. How many 8 and 4? How many?
8? No. You right said top to bottom, like all positions.
Me off now.
Yes.
You've thrown me off now. Touche. Yeah, touche. You got me there. I wasn't expecting you to hit me back that quickly. You're right. Texas, but once again, now we have to look at the difference in how Texas is recruiting now, and I think it's the same equation, right? Like those classes were great, but they were a little bit empty calories, whereas these classes for y'all, these new classes for Texas, they're full meals, and I think that's unbelievable. The fact that you can be in a rebuilding year after how Lincoln left y'all.
Yes.
With what he took.
Oh, man.
And not only do you have back-to-back coach, I'm going to tell you something that's wild. Think back to when Lincoln left. Think back to everything that's happened. When Brent Venables got there, that recruiting class went into shambles, coach. He finished with a top 10 class in recruiting, a top 10 class in transfer portal acquisitions, one of 3 teams to do so in the class of 2022. Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, the 3 teams we're looking at to hit both top 10 in transfer portal and recruiting. Fast forward a year, coming off of the season they're coming off of, which for Oklahoma is a disappointing season. We're talking about one of the winningest programs in college football, period.
History, yep.
Period.
Oh, and still able to maintain and still able to compete in recruiting?
Top 10 recruiting class, again, top 5. Or I'm sorry, top 10 transfer portal class, top 5 recruiting class. That is impressive. And there's a reason why I bring it up every time. It's because to calm the fears. We can say Zadavian Sims, you would love to have him. Oh, I'd love to have him. That's a loss. In recruiting, you're going to have hundreds of losses. However many offers you go out, if you get 20, you sent out 200 offers, you had 180 misses. Cool. It might not matter one lick whenever ink hits paper. It's way too early to be worried about OU.
I'll just
Derek
say this.
LeBlanc is a 4-star that the Sooners landed
and
with
Grayson
like a week's worth of work.
Grayson Halton
in 2022, they flipped him from Oregon. By the way, was also wanted by programs like USC, Texas, Michigan, Miami. So Todd Bates can do it.
I mean, I'm looking at a lot of the players that he got at Clemson, and it took, like I said, a couple of years for him to get. I mean, he was in dogfights with some big programs for those players, and he was able to win them over to Clemson. So all I got to say is it's going to take a couple of years to really get it. I don't think Stone's going to be an issue. I think Stone's going to come here. And I've said that confidently for the main particular reason, him being from here, even though his mother has concerns. I think that the family atmosphere and the soul mission is enough to make her say, and I've read somewhere that she's warming up to it because they actually care about his long-term health as a human being on top of it. And that's what all recruits say when they come here. That seems to be that's like the one tag I see every time they talk about come and visit Oklahoma is, yeah, you can tell they care about us outside of football. That's the big thing about Saban. I've always heard players adore him because he cares about them outside of football.
Deeply.
Venables brings that same culture to Oklahoma. So does Bates. So, yeah, we lost out on a player that's from Texas that now plays in Oklahoma for like the last 2 years, and he's going to Oregon because Oregon and Michigan State has targeted. Yeah. They have targeted the state of Oklahoma specifically because Oklahoma has flipped a lot of players from their schools, and they're going into their territories. So because of that, you're going to see those big boys coming here going for those players that they need to be able to dominate. They're going for players in this area that they could beat Lincoln Riley with. Right. Think about it that way. Think about who they're targeting. They're targeting a lot of players that they're going to use to try to beat Lincoln Riley at USC. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But to your point, though, on Stone, I do agree with you. I think Stone will be in the class. I just don't want people to jump on Bates if for some reason he doesn't end up in the class, because there were so many concerns about Stone being in Oklahoma with these type of people.
Well, and let's just air it out. Go. I mean, we've danced around it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean, we beating around the bush, man. They want
his
it.
mom is worried about the type of people that he hangs out with here in Del City, which if you're not familiar, Del City ain't the best place to be around. And Del City's kind of in Oklahoma City anyways, and Oklahoma City's really close to Norman. So you know what? If a mom is worried about her son and doesn't want him to be in a specific place, which is why he's at IMG Academy now, and he doesn't end up at Oklahoma, I trust her judgment because obviously there's a really good reason he's not in the state right now.
You don't want a Tony Mitchell situation.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the problems that Alabama.
Too soon.
Well, okay, no,
it ain't too soon. Come on,
look at all the problems Georgia's having right now.
Exactly. I was just about to go down the list.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all on that. If you want to win national championships consistently and not be named Nick Saban, you're gonna have the problems that Georgia had. And actually, Alabama had some of it too. It happens. You got to get some goons. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. You got to have a couple goons here or there if you want to actually get over the hump. Guys that'll go do things that is kind of questionable, but to go win that game.
Yeah.
Y'all ever seen
everybody has them?
State?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Hey, that was my show.
Were the Goats choir boys?
No.
Everybody's got them.
No.
That's the thing to remember.
I was able to do a podcast with former Alabama linebacker Marvin Constant. Y'all know he crazy. The boy crazy.
Yeah.
He'll tell you. Marvin Constant was crazy on that field, and he's crazy in real life. My man is crazy. He said, and he made the statement, you won't find a championship roster that didn't have at least 3 or 4 criminals on it. You can't do it in college. Not in college. And it's not that they got to be criminals.
Michael Bennett said that about the NFL. You got to have a couple of goons on defense if you want to win.
Who just don't know anything, no common sense. They just know football. That's it. And sometimes just knowing football, you don't know how to operate outside of off of the football field. But when they on that field, Tony Mitchell, like I said, you said it was too soon joking, but a perfect product. You talking about situations that just arise, happenstance. You know how many kids rode to Panama City in a car full of weed with a pistol? Why Tony Mitchell get pulled over? Why did, you know what I'm saying? It just so happened. I feel like just like his parents told him, hey, take all those visits. We know Tony Mitchell had opportunities to go anywhere, but the pressure of being a hometown kid, a home state kid, got to him, and it caused him to be in that type of situation. Choices, of course, but the pressures led to it. That it influenced. So, like you said, JP, I'm one of those guys, man. When Mama say it, Mama ain't saying it for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Mama know what she's talking about, especially when she's been involved since the start. Come on now, it's something there. So,
and that's why. PG, I really wanted you to say it because I think you have a great point. If OU,
I'm sorry, PG.
I just don't like talking about it because I don't know a whole lot about the situation, and I've only heard what Brandon Drum has said, and I know Brandon Drum doesn't like talking about it. So
no, but you've heard it. You know what? Jay's heard it. I've heard it, and we've all heard it from a different person. So this is how you kind of gauge things. Yep. It doesn't make it true, but it just is interesting when we've all heard it from different places, from all places we trust. And it all happens to be the same.
Especially when it comes to recruiting in these day and age. You know how many, the fact that that he's kind of going quiet on social media for us, you know what I'm saying? Like that's another thing. Like it's exciting, and at the same time, as a fan, I know for y'all, like we were with Peter Woods, like we were with Justin Ross, man, it's one of those things you're like, there's no way you don't come home. But at the same time, you got to look at the bigger picture. Justin Ross, after the back injury thing, I don't think that plays more on his mental if he's at Alabama and can't be the Alabama kid that went to Alabama and did it because of the back injury. Now he has to fall off. You know, that's pressure, guys. It's like you said, man. It's about what's the bigger picture at the end of the day. Who cares about these players and who's going to help them get to their next level in life, not only on the field but as a man. So.
And I can kind of put the finishing touches on this conversation, but to Hall of Fame Media's news, I get it's not news, but I just don't like talking about personal situations when I don't know the whole story, and it's not my place to say it, really. That's why I've danced around that conversation so much. But when it comes to Oklahoma recruiting, especially on the defensive line, OU fans just need to be a little bit more patient.
What did Aaron Rodgers say?
I've talked to a couple of the recruits, guys.
This is the thing.
Things are in the works.
Let's listen to PG on this.
They just want to kind of enjoy the experience. They want to go out there and make sure that they've made the right decision, that their commitment is going to stick, like what Venables has said. And if you notice, the guys that actually end up in this class end up with the values that Venables wants. And so just give it some time. Let Champ U Barbecue pass in July and August. You're going to see the floodgates open for Oklahoma after a lot of the official visits have taken. I promise you guys, there are some silent commitments that might not be silent commitments for the staff, but they have told themselves, this is the school I'm going to, and they're recruiting other guys, because I'm hearing it from other recruits that specific recruits are recruiting them to Oklahoma that are not committed yet. So,
and that's why I say you got to listen to PG on that one, because I know for a fact he's having these conversations with recruits, because if you just go to his channel, you see interviews with these recruits. You see them all over his page. So they're building that relationship and they're trusting. That's why he didn't say names. He's not telling you who, but he's telling you there's a lot of that players that he's talked to, and he's got other players that are recruiting him that he's haven't even met yet. They're just saying, hey man, we talking about this guy recruiting me. There's this other dude recruiting me, and I don't even think he's visited Oklahoma yet. It's like, what? The world of recruiting, where it has gone more on top of the ground than it used to be in underground, is that the recruits talk to each other a hell of a lot more than they used to.
True. It wouldn't shock me if we have a Peyton Kirkland situation from Texas last year.
Another little quick statement. I have my partner, Ivan Cobb. I played college ball with him. He was Justin Aboigbe's position coach in high school out of Atlanta. When Justin Aboigbe took his official visit to Alabama, Ivan was with him. Mind you, Ivan we have our group FaceTime from our college teammates. He's FaceTiming us. He's so caught up. Mind you, he's from Alabama. Me and Ivan grew up in Alabama. Never went inside the facilities, never been to a Bama game in his life. His first time going, he goes with one of his recruits. While he's walking around on FaceTime during the visit, I hear Coach Saban having a conversation with 7 or 8 other recruits that were there. And he's just, you can hear the guys talking about what other schools they're going to visit. When you have a coach that encourages these guys to enjoy the experience, those players are inclined to say, wait, he ain't rushing me to come here. Let me go out here and soak all this in. These players, they work hard to get to these spots. Let them soak in all this fame, and hopefully they can handle it. Hopefully you can guide them in how to handle it. I think that's where Saban and coaches that can recruit like that and can lock in guys like that, that's where they have the upper hand at. They are able to appeal to that better nature. It's not all about just being Alabama. There are other schools out there that can do what Alabama does, but they're not going to do it like Alabama. That's where you get the differences. But go and see. Go to LSU and see how different it is compared to Alabama. Go to you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just go and when you have coaches and staffs that can get those guys and on that personal level where they're saying where they're going to go, they plan on taking this trip, and I don't plan to go there. I know I'm committed here, but I do want to go check it out. I heard about it. You get good results with your recruiting.
Hey, they get some nice dinners on those OVs.
What? They do. They get some nice stuff. Boys, we have gone for 2 hours.
We lit.
Easy. But we're going to cut it there because we could go for another hour if we don't. That's the hard part. Yeah, because if we don't, then we go to the next topic, and then we're here for another 2 hours. Yep. So y'all already know the drill. We're going to go straight down the line. Tell the people where they can find all your stuff. We'll start with PG, then Coach, then Jay. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me, The PG Show, YouTube, all the podcast platforms, The PG Show _, on Twitter. It's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, man. Hey, once again, Ty, PG, T, J, or J?
J. Just
okay,
J. Yeah.
Well, PG and J. Appreciate y'all boys having me for real, man, on the show today, man. Like I said, I look at it as an honor. I'm very humbled. I'm not experiencing this thing, but working with guys like you, I feel my confidence coming, guys. So, but where you can find me is Coach Smook on everything. Coach Smook on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook Gaming, Kick, TikTok. What else? Everything. If you go and look up Coach Smook and you see me with my dreads and my glasses, that's me. That don't be following the other pages. Don't go check it. I ain't gonna do that to you, Ty. I was about to go do my OF joke, but nah, we ain't gonna do that.
Oh no, I told them that Matt Caddell hit me with. I'm gonna have my OnlyFans channel. Apparently,
y'all gotta get y'all OnlyFans popping, man. That's where the new age college football content, man.
Oh boy,
hot tips, sports talk podcast, man. But yeah, guys, Coach Mook on every platform. Once again, guys, appreciate y'all for having me, and as always, roll Tide.
Absolutely, Jay, talk to us, man.
You know where to find me, Jay Unfair Sports. Search for me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Unfair Sports. We're dropping all kinds of college football content. We do talk a lot of OU football. Colorado football is my Pac-12 team. I'm still a fan of, and Coach, you ain't going to like this, I'm a big Tennessee fan as well. So I talk a lot of Vols. We're going to grow the channel. I'm picking my Big Ten team soon. I'm still in between a couple that I want to talk about, but we're talking all that content, and we're dropping a bunch of shorts on old school highlights and stuff just for the fun of it. So, as usual, Ty, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And John, he says this is better than Undisputed First Take. John, I'm going to tell you why. Because it's authentic. There is no script that goes out. Hell, I didn't even tell the guys the topics until 5 minutes before because we were in the green room and I was deciding what we were going to talk about.
Shoot, the thing we were talking about in the green room that we wanted to talk about, we didn't even
get to there.
We haven't got to it yet.
We didn't even get there.
Next week.
We were already doing this in the green room, so
yes, that's why. It's because everything you see here, this is fans talking college football.
If you are a Georgia fan, tune in on Monday because I'm about to be exposed on Monday.
Oh no, PG, I love it, bro. I love it.
Oh Lord,
Mutt, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Don't do. Corey, no.
Hey,
no.
Hey, listen. This is what we're gonna do.
Bama about to give Texas that spank.
I'm running jets. Y'all be good.
On live
right, brother.
television at 7 p.m.
All right, y'all. We're gonna get out of here because we're gonna open Pandora's box. We'll see you on Monday, 5:30. I'll let y'all know Sunday. We'll get it from there. But until then, that's it.
All right, brothers.